Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day video for Tuesday, December 28th. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. And if the video is a little bit blurry, please give it some more time. YouTube is taking forever to render videos. I'm not sure if anybody else is having this problem, but YouTube is taking a long time to render my videos, at least. I'm not sure if that's a story for anybody else, but nevertheless, if it's blurry, just give it a little bit more time. So, price action and the theme of the day. Well, you know, everybody kind of saying the same thing, I think, for today. Felt like today the market took a breather. You know, we've been, you know, as far as the price action has been, we saw, what, 4 straight days of really strong breadth. You could see on the bottom of your screen, right, that the market breadth for the day was lackluster. There was definitely some interesting separation within the sectors. Could this be foreshadowing for next year? I don't know. You know, we can kind of talk about that a little bit. But, you know, the more defensive areas seem to be fine today, right? And the higher growth names, not so much. Higher growth names kind of got hit a little bit. I talked about this. I had a nice conversation with the folks at Benzinga today on their like, you know, halftime show that they do, right? And was kind of you know, talking about that and you know, looking ahead to next year, right? You know, it seems like you know, and I don't mean this as to be negative to anybody, but I think, you know, retail traders, right? And I do too. I love to trade growth stocks too. But if it's not growth stocks every day, right? And if they, you know, we kind of got accustomed to that the last few years, growth outperforming value, right? And growth, you know, higher beta names outperforming lower beta names. But what if that's not the case for next year? You know, what if next year, and I don't have a crystal ball, I'm not making any recommendations, but what if next year, you know, the S&P is up another 15-20%, right? But it's the high growth names are not where it's at. You could see a lot more of the lower beta areas. So why am I talking about this? Because we do have something that does change. We know that something is supposed to change for next year, right? The Fed is going to be you know, tightening, right? They're actually supposed to be doing it already. It kind of felt like they were in there today, maybe decreasing liquidity, or it could have just been, you know, some funds taking profits after a nice run over the last 4 days, which is completely logical, right? Right? That's, you know, after 3 or 4 days, you know, of straight up, you know, the realistic thing is to take some money off the table. So that could be what we saw today. I see no problem with that. But I'm just kind of looking at what performed well today and what, you know, got hit a little bit more. So another point before we get into the charts is one of the things that I said, you know, probably even before this move up in the market that we've seen, is that, you know, after a lot of growth names really got hit, damaged, you know, for instance, the software names, right? That kind of sticks out, right? That the software names and other high growth areas of the market really, you know, got a decent correction to them. Some of these names, in my opinion, is what I said a couple weeks ago, and I still believe this, is that some of these growth names are going to come back, and they have. You know, many of them have gone back to new highs, right? But others are just, it's not gonna come back all the way for them, I don't believe, right? The winners are going to be separated, right? The winners and losers are going to be separated. So it's important to, you know, when entering trades, to make sure that you are following your stop price, because you may be in or playing a couple names. You know, I played a couple names this week too, and I'll go through my trades in just a second, that look like they could possibly turn the corner and have a decent rebound to them. But if they don't, and the bounce is short-lived, and then they go back to the lows again, you know, you have to make those adjustments and take those trades off, right, before they do go back to the lows. So I will get to my trades, and I certainly did that with a couple trades that I put on yesterday. I backed out of those trades. You know, I had a pretty tight stop with a couple of those trades. Those stops hit, and I'm out. Right, and we'll just reassess. Okay, so let's you know, notice that the VIX was down for the day, by the way. Right? Anybody else notice that for the day? I know no one can respond to me in this video, so it's kind of nice. But notice that the VIX was not up today. It was down today. Notice what the S&P did today. About flat, right? So again, a lot of damage under the hood, and some traders who cannot get out of bad habits are going to feel this more than others, right? And bad habits meaning, not having stop prices on trades. Bad habits, in my opinion, also right now is only looking at one area of the market, super high growth, right? And here's another small prediction for 2022. If you are not going to look at all stocks, and if you're only going to look at a very thin slice of the market, high growth, if that's the only area of the market that you're going to look at, you may have a tough time in 2022. Right? I think that you're going to have to adapt to what the market gives you versus saying, hey, this is what I want the market to do, and I'm only going to do this. Right? That's going to be tough this year, this upcoming year. That's my prediction. Okay. Interesting that the aerospace and defense names, they were strong. We kind of looked at a couple of these names in the room, and by the way, you could see the S&P. Right? Just a breather of a day. Right? Let's talk about Nasdaq just for a minute, which was down. Actually, not that. Maybe it kind of came back here at the end of the day. For some reason, I thought it was down about 0.5%, but again, came back. Right? Russell, we came up with a pretty good level that we talked about pre-market. And I have not been a fan of this chart pattern. I talk about this in every day. If you watch my videos every day, I've talked about this not being a great chart pattern. Big move up right into resistance, right? And if you look at the 1 hour chart, right, we talked about this. If you go into my commentary channel, right, which is in here, I said daily chart small caps after 200-day moving average, 1 hour VPOC being taken out. Right. So what do I always say about these virgin point of controls once they're taken out? Right. They're an area to take profits. So notice that this was taken out, and that's what we normally see is either digestion. It's either these three things, right? Which is any income, any outcome. It's either a fade, right? So take it out and fade, which is kind of what we have. We don't know for sure yet, or it's a digestion. But we know that there's usually this, right? The third is that that price can just leap over it, but I think that's definitely more rare than the number one or number two outcomes. It's a place to say I'm going to take profits, in my opinion, and then watch to see what happens, right? We talked about what happened earlier this week with Tesla, right? Tesla took out this VPOC last week, right? No problem, right? This was sorry, I shouldn't say no problem. This was the digestion, right? After that, right? Digestion and then retake, retest, and then boom. All right. Now there's another one that's up here for Tesla at 1137. That's what I would be targeting if you're bullish. Tesla would be this 1137 level, right, for the short term. Right? I'm on the 1 hour chart, so anything I talk about on the 1 hour chart is short term. But that's how it goes. And sometimes you get up to a 1 hour VPOC, and that's it for the swing. That's it for the move. Right? Now again, there's another one up here, but I would not pay attention into these small caps unless we get back above this this red line. All right, so that was a key point for the day. Right? The other thing that I'll mention too, just to talk a little bit more about today's price action. What do you notice about the 5-minute bars that happened today versus yesterday? Right? It looked like there was a very big seller in there today. Right? Notice how big these red bars were. So what did I do after I saw a couple rounds of this today? Because this carried through. A little inch up, inch up, inch up, poof, inch up, inch up, inch up, poof. That's very hard to trade with, right? And so what did I do today? Right, and I think I said it. I said I gave up at 12 o'clock. I said I'm not trading too much in this chop. It's just too difficult, right? So sometimes, those are the adjustments that you make, and just realize when you've got a big seller that's in this market. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's a trading program. No idea. No color on that, right? We don't have to figure it out, right? You don't have to put together the market puzzle and be and be market detective, right? You just know when to kind of sit out and when to play, right? And when to participate. Sorry, I'm using sports here a little bit, right? But when you've got something like this going on, right? Right? You can't, there's not much you can do with that unless you're playing a lot of things on the short side. All right, so that kind of sums up today's price action. So let me get to my trades, and I'll go over maybe a couple charts. But you could see I took a couple things. FCX, right? I think looks fine. Right, where did this thing close for the day? It didn't do much for the day. Chop, right? And that's why also I just figured that more names were doing this than anything else. But I just took a target to still have a portion of a trade on. CSX, I thought the rails were acting very well early. They kind of fizzled a little bit at the end of the day, but you did get a breakout. I was watching UNP as well. UNP did close at new highs. Not a full green bar, but I'm noticing that there's a lot of strength. I talked about this one earlier today. C.H. Robinson, right? Saw some calls in there today too. But the transportation's names, very, very strong. So this so when I see something like this, it's kind of similar to the semiconductors too, which by the way, we're in need of a little bit of digestion after today, right? And that's a name I think definitely, this is a group to watch tomorrow, right? AMD was very strong, by the way, today. Only down, outperformed for the group. Only down 0.75%. So this is definitely a name to watch tomorrow. We'll be watching things like Applied Materials, right? Maybe some NVIDIA. NVIDIA did come into the 1 hour, right, and found support, right at the top of value. So that's a name that I'll be watching tomorrow because, again, this is good to see a little bit of a breather in some of these names that got very heated. We'll see if they can kind of, carry the ball from here, basically. All right, so that's a couple trades. Here was a trade I tried in the beginning of the day. I went over this name pre-market yesterday. I didn't take it yesterday because I had a pretty busy day. I took it today and it just didn't work for me. I added again to it, and once I saw, I try to hang in there for as long as I could with this day trade, and here I took it off for a loss. All right, tape not cooperating. Yeah, so you could see that's one stop. I also took my stop by stopping U, which was a name I tried. I put on at the end of the day. My stop was 146, so honor the stop. Where did this name close for the day? Right, 143. So I think I did the right thing there. Right. Right. Sometimes you take off a trade, you get hit on you get stopped, and then the name recovers right back. But I took this. Right. What did I say the stop was on this one? 146. Took my stop at 145 and change. Also, I took off Affirm. Right. This was a name that I mentioned in the weekend watch list that I said, I didn't love the pattern that we were seeing in this one. But so I talked about in the beginning of the video, I said some names are going to get back to highs and some names are going to bounce and then keep going. Now, I'm undecided about this because you can't really decide because we don't know if this is another lower high, right? Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So far, it looks like another lower high, but we'll watch, right? And the 20-day moving average will be important, for this thing to get above. Right, so it was a little bit early taking that trade yesterday, and I think it's 50-50, right, in terms of whether this thing goes back and retests, and then maybe there might be a setup down here when it revisits the 200-day moving average. But it's a 50-50, I think, between where it sits, goes back here, or if it comes in and retests the 20-day moving average. Ultimately, if you're bullish on this name, you'd want to see it get out of that pattern of making lower highs, and that remains to be seen, right? Upstart was another one of those names too that everybody was excited about over the last couple days, but again, there's no retracement, there's no technical strength here other than a bounce, right, of what you saw the last couple days, and a decent bounce from the lows, but that's it. There's nothing being regained here, right? A lot of people had questions about Disney. Disney saw some calls today. This really is another one that got very beaten up. Where do I think this could go to, right? 20-day moving average is up here at 159. And I think that that also lines up with this virgin point of control that's up at 158. Again, if you don't know what a virgin point of control is, it is an area of high volume that has not been revisited. Right, so it is a point of control from another period, which is specifically where I'm highlighting, right? And if it's kind of like leaving a gap behind, right? So coming up here would kind of come back up here, and there will probably be a seller up here, right? It's overhead supply, right, on a place that we have not been, right? And the market has memory to it, right? There's people that have bought up here, right, and who are underwater. So as soon as you get a bounce, and a bounce to a high, maybe where people were previously purchasing, they will probably come in and start to sell at that level. All right, that's the theory behind this. That's why we often see digestion once we get to that level, and that's why they're great areas to say, hey, I'm going to be, I'm going to be a seller with them, or possibly even before all that selling pressure comes in around that 158 level. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.